You were a child, but you weren't allowed to be a child. While other kids were playing and being carefree, you were taking care of your parents. You were their emotional support. You were their therapist. You were the one keeping the family together. You had to grow up too fast. And now, as an adult, you can't relax. You can't ask for help. You can't be vulnerable. You're still trying to take care of everyone else while neglecting yourself. That's parentification, and it's one of the most damaging forms of psychological abuse that goes completely unrecognized. In this video, I'm breaking down the psychology of parentification, what it is, how it damages children, what it does to their brain, and the lifelong effects on adult relationships. Stay tuned. If psychology fascinates you, subscribe and hit the bell. We release brain science that changes your life every single week. Let's start with what parentification actually is. Parentification is when a child is forced to assume the emotional or physical responsibilities of a parent or adult. The parent-child role is reversed. Instead of the parent taking care of the child takes care of the parent. This can happen in several ways. Emotional parentification is when the child becomes the parent's emotional support. The child listens to the parent's problems. The child comforts the parent. The child becomes the parent's therapist or confidant. The child has to manage the parent's emotions. Physical parentification is when the child takes on physical responsibilities. The child cooks meals. The child cleans the house. The child takes care of younger siblings. The child manages household finances. The child basically runs the household. Now, why do parents parentify their children? There are several reasons. First, the parent is overwhelmed. They're dealing with depression, anxiety, addiction, or other mental health issues. They literally don't have the emotional capacity to be a parent, so they rely on the child to provide emotional support. Second, the parent is a narcissist. They need constant attention and validation, so they use the child to meet their emotional needs. The child exists to make the parent feel good about themselves. Third, there's been family loss or trauma. A parent died or left. The remaining parent is overwhelmed with grief, so the child has to step up and take on adult responsibilities. Fourth, there's severe financial stress. The family is struggling. The child has to contribute to keeping the household afloat. But here's the thing about parentification. It's child abuse. It's not physical abuse. There are no bruises, but it's psychological abuse. It robs the child of their childhood. It puts adult burdens on developing brains, and it causes serious psychological damage. Now let's talk about what parentification does to the brain. First, it activates the stress response. The child's nervous system is constantly activated because they're carrying adult responsibilities. Their cortisol levels are elevated. Their amygdala is constantly firing. Their brain is shaped by chronic stress. Over time, their brain actually develops differently than a normal child's brain. The areas responsible for emotional regulation are underdeveloped. The areas responsible for stress response are overdeveloped. This leads to something called developmental trauma. Developmental trauma is different from single-incident trauma. It's a result of a child developing in an environment where their needs are not met and they're forced to take on adult responsibilities. The child's brain literally develops in a state of chronic stress. This changes the trajectory of their psychological development. Second, parentification creates a loss of identity. The child doesn't develop their own identity. Their identity becomes wrapped up in being the caretaker, being helpful, being responsible. being the person who takes care of others. So when they grow up, they don't know who they are, separate from that role. Their entire sense of self is based on being needed by others. Third, parentification creates boundary issues. The child learned that their needs don't matter, that they exist to meet other people's needs. So, as an adult, they have terrible boundaries. They let people treat them badly. They take on other people's problems. They can't say no. They sacrifice their own needs for others. Their boundaries are completely Fourth, parentification creates anxiety. The child is constantly responsible for managing the household or managing the parents' emotions. So they develop an acute sense of responsibility for everything. They feel like everything is their fault. They feel like they need to fix everything. They feel like if they're not doing something, something bad will happen. This anxiety follows them into adulthood. Let me give you a real example. This is Michael. Michael's father left when he was 8 years old. His mother fell into severe depression. She could barely get out of bed. So Michael had to step up. He learned to cook. He learned to clean. He took care of his younger sister. He went to school. He came home and made dinner. He helped his sister with homework. He managed the household. His mother would cry to him about her problems, about how much she missed his father, about how hard life was. Michael became her emotional support, her therapist, her reason to keep living. Michael was excellent at this. By the time he was 12, he was essentially running the household and managing his mother's mental health. He never asked for help. He never complained. He just took care of everything, and his mother was grateful. She told him he was so mature for his age, that she didn't know what she'd do without him. Now Michael is 35 years old. He's successful in his career, but his personal life is a disaster. He's been in 3 marriages. All of them failed. In every relationship, he was the one doing everything. He was cooking. He was cleaning. He was managing his wife's emotions. He was the strong one, the responsible one, the one who never needed anything. And when his wives asked him what he needed, he didn't know how to answer. He didn't know how to ask for help. He didn't know how to be vulnerable. He didn't know how to let someone take care of him. So his wives felt unsupported. They felt like they had to take care of him emotionally while he took care of everything else. Eventually, they all left. Michael has never had a healthy relationship because he was parentified as a child. He never learned how to be in a reciprocal relationship where both people's needs matter. Now let's talk about the specific patterns that develop in parentified children. First, there's over-responsibility. Parentified children take on too much responsibility. They feel like everything is their job. They feel like if they're not doing something, something bad will happen. So they work constantly. They take on extra projects. They volunteer for everything. They can't rest. They can't relax, because relaxing feels irresponsible. Second, there's people-pleasing. Parentified children learn that their value comes from what they do for others, so they become chronic people-pleasers. They say yes to everything. They can't say no. They prioritize other people's needs over their own. They feel guilty when they do something for themselves. Their entire life is organized around making other people happy. Third, there's difficulty asking for help. Parentified children learned that they have to be self-sufficient. They can't burden others. They can't ask for help. So as adults, they struggle to ask for help, even when they desperately need it. They try to do everything themselves. And when they finally do ask for help, they feel ashamed. Fourth, there's difficulty with emotions. Parentified children often had to suppress their own emotions to manage the parents' emotions, so they become disconnected from their feelings. They don't know what they're feeling. They don't know how to express emotions. They might appear cold or emotionless, or they might have emotional outbursts because they're storing up all their repressed feelings. Fifth, there's a savior complex. Parentified children often become fixated on saving or helping others. They're attracted to people who need saving. Partners with addiction issues, partners with mental health problems, friends in crisis. They think if they just help enough, they can fix the person, and they'll finally feel valued. But they can't fix anyone, so they end up in endless cycles of trying to save people who don't want to be saved. Sixth, there's difficulty with authority. Parentified children often had to take care of the adult authority figure, so they developed a stranger relationship with authority. They either become very compliant and obedient, or they rebel against authority entirely. They don't trust authority figures, because they learned early on that adults are unreliable and they can't count on them for anything. Now let's talk about the different types of parentification. This is more common in single-parent households, or in households where one parent is dealing with mental health issues. The child listens to the parent's problems. The child provides emotional support. Physical parentification is when the child takes on physical responsibilities, or in families dealing with illness or poverty. Instrumental parentification is when the child has to manage practical matters, managing household finances. The child becomes the household manager. First, there's increased mental health problems. Parentified children have higher rates of depression, anxiety, PTSD, and complex trauma. They're more likely to struggle with self-worth. They're more likely to develop anxiety disorders. They're more likely to engage in compulsive helping. They learned that their needs don't matter. They wait until things are critical before they seek help. Third, there's difficulty with relationships. The one who takes care of everything, or they seek out partners who need saving. Even though parentified children are always doing for others, they often feel empty inside. They feel like something is missing. They feel unfulfilled. Their own interests, their own goals, their entire life is organized around taking care of others. Fifth, there's difficulty with intimacy. Parentified children often have difficulty with genuine intimacy. They can provide care and support, but they can't receive care and support. They can't be vulnerable. They can't be dependent. They can't let someone else take care of them. But there's no mutual vulnerability. It wasn't your job to fix it. Second, you have to grieve. You have to grieve the childhood you didn't have. You have to grieve the years you've spent taking care of others instead of taking care of yourself. You have to grieve the carefree innocence you lost. Third, you have to set boundaries. You have to learn to say no. You have to prioritize your own needs. You have to stop sacrificing yourself for others. And you have to be prepared for people's reactions when you start setting boundaries. Some people will be angry. Some people will try to guilt you, but you have to hold the boundary. Fourth, you have to learn to ask for help. You have to practice vulnerability. You have to let people know what you need, and you have to allow people to help you. This is hard because you learned that asking for help is a burden, but it's essential for recovery. Fifth, you have to develop your own identity. You have to discover who you are, separate from your role as caretaker. What do you like? What brings you joy? What are your goals and dreams? You have to build a life around yourself, not around taking care of others. Sixth, you have to work on self-compassion. Parentified children are often very critical of themselves. They judge themselves harshly. They believe they should have done more. They should have fixed the family. You have to learn to be kind to yourself, to recognize that you did the best you could with the tools you had. The thing about parentification is that it's a form of childhood abuse that's often celebrated. Your family probably told you how mature you were, how responsible, how they couldn't have survived without you. But what they were really saying is that you were being abused. You were being forced to take on adult responsibilities, and you're supposed to be grateful for it. You're not. You were robbed of your childhood. You were forced to grow up too fast. And now you're paying the price in your adult relationships and mental health. But you can recover. You can learn to prioritize your own needs. You can learn to ask for help. You can learn to be in healthy, reciprocal relationships. It just takes awareness and intentional work. If this video resonated with you, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos on psychology and family trauma that actually change your life. Next week, I'm breaking down the psychology of the golden child versus the scapegoat, how families create two extreme roles, and what it does to both children. Don't miss it. See you in the next one.